Come gather round, people, wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you have grown, and accepted that soon you'll be drenched to the bone. If your time is worth saving, then you better start swimming or you'll sink like a stone, for the times they are changing. Come writers and critics who prophesize with your pen, keep your eyes while the chance won't come again, and don't speak too soon, for the wheel's still in spin, and there's no telling who that it's naming, for the loser now will be later to win, for the times they are changing. Come senators, congressmen, please hear the call. Don't stand in the doorway, don't block up the hall, for he that gets hurt will be he who has stalled. There's a battle outside and it's raging. It will soon shake your windows and your walls, for the times they are changing. Come mothers and fathers throughout the land, and don't criticize what you can't understand, for your sons and your daughters are beyond your command. Your old world is rapidly aging. Please get out of the new one if you can lend your hand, for the times they are changing. The line it is drawn, the curse it is cast, the slow now will later be fast, as the present now will later be past. The older is rapidly fading, and the first one now will later be last, for the times they are changing.
Hello everyone. Now that was the song The Times They Are A-Changing by Bob Dylan. It was actually sung by my dear student of PSMO College, Tirurangadi. Her name is Afida, who is a second year English student there. Because it's a song, I just wanted somebody to sing it, so she was very much willing to do that for me, and I really acknowledge and I really thank her for that. So Bob Dylan, we are going to talk Bob Dylan, which we have got to study in Ways with Words. The Times They Are A-Changing. I hope you might have liked the song sung by Afida. This is of course a song, talking about Bob Dylan for an introduction sake. Bob Dylan is one of the towering figures of American culture and a global 20th century icon as well. Bob Dylan was born Robert Allen Zimmerman in 1941 in Duluth, Minnesota. Influenced by folk music, he turned his attention from school rock bands and becomes involved in local folk scenes, performed regularly at folk clubs and coffee houses in Greenwich Village. Meanwhile, he had adopted the name Dylan as a reverent gesture to the Welsh poet Dylan Thomas. His first album got released in 1962, featuring 2 original songs and covers of traditional folk material, which did not see much of a success. In 1963, he released The Freewheeling Bob, and in 1964, The Times They Are A-Changing, both of which turned out to be very successful. His other releases include Bringing It All Back Home, Highway 61 Revisited, Nashville Skyline, Planet Waves, Before the Flood, and on to Love and Theft in 2001, Modern Times in 2006, and so on. You do have lots and lots of releases that it's quite difficult to include it in this particular video. You can just Google it, it's there. Talking about Bob Dylan, no other writer from the world of American popular music has ever attracted this much of critical attention And no popular cultural figure has been adopted to the curricula of colleges and universities of language and English and literature departments across the globe. A man who, according to David Gates, a man who did to popular music what Einstein did to physics, who brought the long lyric line back to popular American song and also imported French symbolist strategy of suggestion rather than delineation in his subjects. It was Bob Dylan who had grown pop up. He was the person who was behind the growth of pop and has given it brains. Now, what has he got to do in language and literature departments? There are many debates on whether he deserved to be awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature or not. He has always insisted that he was not a poet but a songwriter. But he was brought to the literature departments labeling. He was brought to the literature department by getting labeled as a poet, though he is not a significant poet for that matter. We can of course take him as a literary artist whose works are very sensitive and sensible enough, and his works do have a prophetic hue to it, and literature departments has become much more inclusive enough to engage with culture studies, expanding the arena of literary analysis to the sphere of popular culture, music. We can of course include Bob Dylan, as he inhabits the modern and postmodern public sphere, where there is this blurring of high and low art, popular art and culture. Literature has become very much inclusive in that sense, with the blurring of different poetic forms, where there has always been inclusions of forms and new genres. In this sense, we can include Bob Dylan into our classrooms. Dylan's lyrics are quite literary in nature, and he is always likened to poets like Shakespeare, Blake, Rimbaud, Whitman, etc. His songs are the heart of his matter. It is the songs which has provided him with a foundation on which he has amassed all of his aesthetic reputation and identity. The text or the song that we have got to study is "The Times They Are A-Changin'." This is a song which has made Bob Dylan popular all over the world. This is probably influenced by an old Scottish folk song. This is a song which he has written and sung in his early career in 1963, when he was earning his reputation as the voice of his generation. His early songs in that case were social commentaries when the civil rights movement and the anti-war protests were sweeping the nation. And music was of course very important, a kind of an important instigator in awakening people to rise up for their rights, and folk music was quite an influencing factor of music at that time. Though Bob Dylan in his interviews deny the fact that his songs are political or are political tools or anthems for change, we of course as readers could take it as a timeless protest song ever written, which speaks not to a particular age but to all ages. It's the lyrics which speaks in Bob Dylan. It's the lyrics which makes Bob Dylan's songs quite appealing. The songs are quite hypnotic and speaks of time and change. In this particular poem, the song speaks of time and change. And this particular song speaks for all of us. It awakens all of us. It is quite hypnotic in nature. It awakens all of us, irrespective of our age and time. The song talks about the impermanence of now and how we are to deal with a changing reality as an individual and as a whole society. This particular song becomes relevant in all ages, as I told you before, in all relevant times, critical moments, critical junctures of the society, the culture, in times of war, in times of conflicts, of course in times of pandemic. Now let's delve into the poem. I hope you might have enjoyed the song sung by Afida. I'll just read it out. I'll just read the lines out. Come, gather round people, wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you have grown, and accept it that soon you will be drenched to the bone. If your time to you is worth saving, then you better start swimming, or you will sink like a stone, for the times they are a-changing. Come, writers and critics, who prophesize with your pen, and keep your eyes wide. The chance won't come again. And don't speak too soon, for the wheel is still in spinning. And there is no telling who that it's naming, for the loser now will be later to win, for the times they are a-changing. Come, senators, congressmen, please heed the call. Don't stand in the doorway, don't block up the hall, for he that gets hurt will be he who has stalled. There is a battle outside, and it's raging. It will soon shake your windows and rattle your walls, for the times they are a-changing. Come, mothers and fathers, throughout the land, and don't criticize what you can't understand. Your sons and your daughters are beyond your command. Your old road is rapidly aging. Please get out of the new one. If you can't lend your hand, for the times they are a-changing. The line it's drawn, the curse it's cast, the slow one now will later be fast. As the present now will later be past, the order is rapidly fading, and the first one now will later be last, for the times they are a-changing. Now this is the whole song. I've just read the song, that's it. Now let's delve deep into the song. The first stanza, come gather round people wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you have grown, and accept it that soon you will be drenched to the bone. If your time to you is worth saving, then you better start swimming, or you will sink like a stone, for the times they are a-changing. Now the first stanza talks or calls people to gather around. If it is a war, if it is any conflict in the society, of course, if you're placing it historically, if you're placing this particular song historically, though the writer did not mean it, as he says in interviews, Dylan tells people or calls out to people, tell them to gather. Of course, not in the time of pandemic, you know, gathering is suicidal and distancing is survival. So Bob Dylan tells people to gather around at times of other sorts of conflicts. Mentally you can gather. Of course, at times of pandemic, mentally, digitally you can gather, virtually you can gather. Though you will have to distance yourself physically, there is gathering always. So Bob Dylan says that in any times of conflict, first of all, you need to gather around. Come together from wherever you're roaming, because the first step in change or bringing about change is understanding and accepting that you are in a conflict. you are in a problematic situation. You should accept the fact that you are going to drown. You should accept the fact that you will be drenched to the bone. And if you need to save your time, if you need to save yourself, if you need to save the times that you are in, you better start swimming, or the times would take you down to the deepest depths. So if as an individual or as a society, you need to have some sort of a change, understand the situation, understand the problem, understand that you are in a problem, understand that the problem is going to engulf you if you are not conquering the problem, if you are not swimming against. So you need to learn to swim. You need to learn to understand, accept and resolve. Then only you will be able to solve it. Now the second stanza, is actually a call out to the writers and the critics. Come, writers and critics who prophesize with your pen, and keep your eyes wide, the chance won't come again. And don't speak too soon, for the wheel is still in spin, and there is no telling who that it's naming. For the loser now will be later to win, for the times they are a-changing. So times are changing all the time. Bob Dylan tells the writers and critics to observe things around. Observe all the chaos that is happening around. Writers and critics are people who prophesize by their pen. They talk about the future times, and the best of literature is produced during the worst of the times. He tells the writers and critics to keep their eyes wide, because this is a chance that won't come again. And he also tells them not to speak, not to spill out soon, not to speak out soon. He tells them to watch, wait and watch, see what's happening, because the wheel is still in spin and we cannot tell who's gonna win and who's gonna lose now. Of course, the writers and critics can wait for some time, because today's winners would be tomorrow's losers. This particular stanza talks about the fact that changes occur with time, and people who succeed today can fail tomorrow, because time changes. Time is on the move. Time is always on the move. Now the third stanza is a call to the senators and congressmen, to the politicians. Come, senators, congressmen, please heed the call. Don't stand in the doorway, don't block up the hall, for he that gets hurt will be he who has stalled. There is a battle outside and it's raging. It will soon shake your windows and rattle your walls, for the times they are a-changing. Now the third stanza is a call out to the politicians, to the congressmen, to the senators. Bob Dylan tells all these people to listen to the people outside and please don't obstruct their ways. Please do not be impediments to those people who are fighting for their country. There is a battle raging outside, and soon this battle is going to affect these politicians, is going to affect you, shock you. It will shake your windows tomorrow. It will shake your doors. It will rattle your walls. The whole of the war which is raging outside would break and come in. The whole of the war, the conflict outside is calling out for a change. And it's time for change. People need change and they are fighting for a new time. So please do not obstruct their ways. Now in the next stanza, Bob Dylan, it's a stanza which is dedicated to parents. Come, mothers and fathers throughout the land, and don't criticize what you can't understand. Your sons and your daughters are beyond your command. Your old road is rapidly aging. Please get out of the new one if you can't lend your hand, for the times they are a-changing. Now Bob Dylan is standing with children, not with parents and not with mothers and fathers. He calls to the mothers and fathers and tells them, please do not interfere with the decisions of your children, because you understand that your children are matured enough to think, enough to act, enough to do things for the society, for the world, for the new world which is coming. Parents do have a tendency to criticize whatever their children are doing. Baudelaire tells the parents and parents, mothers and fathers, that please do not criticize them. It's only they who knows what's happening outside. It is only they who are to live the next world, the future world. The parents, of course, cannot understand the real problem. And the children, you cannot command their children, because your children are beyond your command. It's not like your ages. Your path has, of course, grown old. The path is different now. Do not judge and criticize your children based on the old notions, the old roads that you have taken, the old notions that you have in your head. It's okay if you cannot help them. It is okay if you cannot help them, but do not be an obstruction in their new ways. Please do not block their ways, because they are the future of the country, and they are fighting for their future and their own future land. Now in the next stanza, the line it is drawn, the curse it is cast, the slow one now will later be fast, as the present now will later be the past. The order is rapidly fading, and the first one now will later be last, for the times they are a-changing. Now there is a curse upon the land. The land is accursed. There is a curse upon the land. And the land and the people are equally struggling. The land and the people are equally fighting for a new world. And obviously those people who are on the successful side now, tomorrow, they will fail. And it's for their failure that we are fighting. We might fail today, but tomorrow we will succeed. Those who are at the front row now, tomorrow they will be at the last. The present today will be the past tomorrow. And it's all about fighting. It's all about moving on. It's all about striving for a better time to come and a change to be brought about in the whole land. And let's all, in any times of conflict, in any times of problems, let's all fight for change. We should all move on. Whatever happens in our life, whatever conflicts come in our life, whatever problems come in our life, we'll have to move on, right? Life is all about moving on. Let's fight. Let's fight for a new world to come. Thank you.